Okay, so we are at episode 12, which I think was going to be the end of the season, but fear not, it is not. And I'm really excited about the topic tonight. We're talking about what we do when we fall into the patterns we've worked so hard to get out of. Like, you've refined yourself, you've done all this work, and then suddenly you find yourself back where you were before you did all the work. What do you do?
To my dearest mates here, Colt and Jon, cheers, brothers. Yeah,
Cheers.
to the peaky blinders. There it is. To the peaky blinders. He's like, I'm gonna watch that shit when we get off of here.
I was like, I'm not cutting that. I'm not cutting that intro. That said, the topic tonight, they know it, y'all don't. Thank you, Jon, for once again giving up your for reversing the turns.
All good.
I'm really, really excited to talk about this. I wanted to know how you deal with. We do all of this work on refining ourselves, on being gentlemen by choice, on understanding all the parts of love. We do all of this work, and then we find ourselves at some point shitting all over that and just being those old versions of ourselves. What do you do when you find yourself falling into a pattern of something about yourself that you feel like you worked to get rid of? And I'll go lead by example. It's not how that's usually used, but I am currently in a physical place that I have a history with. And I find that outside of the walls of my home, I am very short-tempered. I am not very short-tempered. I shouldn't oversell this. I, comparatively to my normal day-to-day self, everywhere else, I find that my temper has been cut in twain. And I'm a little less patient with people. I'm a little more apt to just feel some sort of way. And I find myself being a little triggered in ways that I haven't felt in a while, that I worked not to feel, but tried to work through. And I'm finding myself being like, you know what, it's fine. I can feel like this. I can feel like this. And it brought up something that I was like, oh, I want to talk to the guys. Like, what if has there been a time for you where you've been like, man, I feel like I worked really hard to get past all this, and oh shit, maybe there's more there. Maybe there's more than I need to work through, or do I just need to acknowledge it? I know what I've personally done, but I wanted to know if and what and why. Go forth.
Are we both laughing?
Yeah.
Both laughing?
Well, I'm laughing only because it's funny. So the topic, which we can do for another day, but what I was going to bring up was comparison, because that's the thing. Well, kind of like what you're saying, I've thought I got past the whole idea of comparing myself to other people. But in the last like 3-4 weeks, it's constantly become more and more of a thing that I'm catching myself comparing. And I'm like, damn, I thought I've worked through this. Like, even to the point that I'm finding myself being jealous at times, where I'm like, what is this emotion I'm feeling? And I'm like, oh shit, this is jealousy. Why am I feeling jealous right now? I have worked way past feeling jealous, because I know jealousy comes from comparing and then coming from a place of not trusting oneself and just looking at what other people have or whatnot. And it is that question of like, why is this coming up? I thought I dealt with this, and I thought I worked with this. And I actually was talking to my therapist this on Monday, and it was interesting because I just had to let go of, basically like let go of a whole bunch of frustration, and I told her all this stuff, and I was like, by the time I'm letting them know all this stuff, I'm super frustrated, and I'm like in a point of being angry. And she sits there and she smiles, she's like, isn't this exciting? And I'm like, what? Like, how the hell is this exciting? And she goes, look how much you've grown. Like everything you're saying you used to do, but you did it without knowing, and you didn't catch yourself. Now you're doing it, but you're catching
Oh
yourself.
wow, yeah.
Like it's look at the
Wow.
way you're growing, and I'm like,
Hey,
oh.
oh,
And she was
somebody.
like, yeah. She's like, you're never gonna get over comparison. You're never gonna get
Sorry.
over. Yeah.
Don't just double fist and then just fucking hop out of the screen. I was like, wait, what is happening in
That's fucking
Georgia?
amazing. I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
Well, she was saying, she was like, you're gonna find yourself comparing at times in life. You're gonna get jealous if someone's gonna have something you've been wanting really badly, working hard, and someone's gonna show up in the picture and they're gonna have it. So it's gonna show up. The question is, how quickly can you catch those feelings coming up, and what are you gonna do about it in the moment? And a lot of stuff has happened over the past week, and it's like I found myself multiple times frustrated where I'm like, fuck, can't shift myself out of this. And then finally last night, I like had kind of enough where I was just like, I'm going for a long drive. And I left my house and I drove all the way to Ventura on the PCH, and it was like an hour and a half drive. And I finally got out there, and like the whole time was me just complaining. Fuck this and screw this, and this is nonsense, and I'm done dealing with this. And then I got out there, and then I stopped and I parked on a part of PCH that was pitch black, and it was just the ocean I could hear. And I stopped and I asked myself, what is this trying to teach me right now? Because I know that's where I need to go next. So what is this teaching me? And then I sat there and like I started looking. I'm like, okay, in this situation, like with work, it's not showing up how I thought it was going to show up. Now I'm like conflicted because do I stay trying to do this, or do I do something different? And all these other things, looking at it. And then there's a place of gratitude. And then it just reminded me of what my therapist said. Be grateful that you're going through this, because look how much stronger you're becoming at these skills. Look how stronger of an emotional person you are, that you can handle it in them. You're like, people run unconsciously and compare and don't stop to be like, oh, hold on a second. I'm comparing myself. Let me look at where this is coming from. Oh, I'm not trusting myself right now. I'm not trusting my journey, or I'm being impatient right now. And that's why I'm seeing what they have, and I want what they have, and I want it now. Oh, wait a minute, I don't get to have it now. Like, I'm going to get it when the time is right. And that person has a completely different journey than I have, and what led them to where they're at. And so being able to walk ourselves back and be like, okay, this is where this emotion is now coming up. Because these emotions will all show up, but it's really getting to a place to be able to look at, where is this? What's the root of this?
I like that.
At the beginning of this, I was like, oh, your therapist is crazy. And now I'm like, oh, damn. It is exciting. Fucking hey.
Growing.
Yeah.
Because I'm I'm like, Jon Gorski, who are you? Who are you?
Who you jealous of, bro?
Like, who are you jealous of? That's Jon Gorski. Camera's over here. Who are you jealous of? You're fucking Jon Gorski.
This is the thing that's going to be blasted all over the Refinery talks.
No, it's not that what I came to realize, I wasn't jealous. Well, the first emotion that came up was, I'm jealous of what's going on in that situation. What in reality was, I don't trust myself that I'm going to be able to get that.
No,
so I'm jealous of that situation.
By the way, this is more rhetorical than anything.
I see.
Because Colt, that's a very smooth. I see. Yeah, smooth. Yeah, Colt and I and the rest of the world are like, you are the James Bond of the Refinery. You're the shaken, not stirred. You're the smooth talker. Like, your voice.
You got the radio
never,
voice. Come on now.
You got the radio voice. You're handsome. You like nice cars. You don't want a truck or a Wrangler just to be dirty and four-wheel through the backwoods or somewhere.
You want to drive
through
Can it be both? Like, can you have the Lamborghini
By the way,
Urus that's also a 4x4? Like, why not?
Tell me if you've seen a Wrangler on the Autobahn. No. Why? Lots of reasons.
Because they just put a 392 V8 in it and released it. It's coming out it's literally coming out this year.
Cole,
It gets 9
I was
miles to the
hoping,
gallon, and it
by
goes
the way,
0 to 60 in 3.5.
9 miles to the gallon.
I mean,
By
I'm not
the
gonna.
way,
I literally live on the road. Like I've got to pay attention to that. Fuck
no,
the
by the
forums,
way,
like-
I was like, I literally thought to myself in half a second, I said, this could potentially go, oh, no, they have a new Wrangler coming out. Nope.
Yep.
Like
Right
literally
there.
in a half a second, I was like, no, nope, he's going to find it. And he found his angle.
Mhm.
But Gorski, like, it's interesting because on the other side of the fence, right? We hold you in such high regard and with so much admiration and respect and love and these different things that it's just like, dude, you're doing so much. So if you're doing so much, how in your world, and I get it, by the way, but how in your world could you be looking and saying, oh, how am I not doing that? When you literally have a platform built from scratch where people are watching on a weekly basis. One, you didn't have to launch a YouTube channel, and you didn't actually have to build 30,000 plus followers to get it, or Colt's 100,000 plus to get it. Like, no one can say that. People can't say that, but you can. That's why these moments are just like, life is so interesting. So interesting. But in fairness, you are a man and you are human. And so we often find ourselves in these positions of striving for excellence and greatness where we will almost borderline neglect or not acknowledge fully in all gratitude that is what we currently have because we want more. So I get the more. But we can't, and this is my opinion, my own personal belief, we can't fully walk in and own the more if we can't appreciate and see the now. That's my thing. Like, if we can't say right now, fuck, I hit up a guy, I want to do a thing. That guy hit up another guy. That guy had a YouTube channel. That guy said, hey, on my YouTube channel, do you want to launch your platform? And then now we're looking at 4 months later, the Refinery is a thing where not only is it his mom, my mom, your family, your close friends, our audiences, but complete strangers from across the world saying, how can I be a part of this? How can I watch this? That's the part that when someone says, I had a rough week, I'm like, wait, what? You have someone from Australia trying to figure out how to get on here.
Like multiple people. A lot in South America and Europe.
Multiple people. And another example, I just did an interview on this thing called King Speak. And when they researched me for the interview, because when you're interviewed and they want to like look at your most recent posts you've done, most recent interviews you've done, or a podcast or a talk show you're a part of. And my last 3 interviews have all said, I really like that show, The Refinery, you're doing. And they reference The Refinery and they say, and Jon seems this way and Colt seems this way, and you all have individual thought ways in doing things. So it's just interesting that you felt that way. I mean, I'm sure the drive to Ventura was beautiful, but
before we jump into the next piece, which is Brandon, is your like kind of intro, your unrefined entry.
Way, it's so brief. It's so once you say your thing, it's so brief.
Why don't you say yours? Because I think this one may expand a little bit.
I don't think so. I don't know how you expand from being a hoe.
Fair. There's that. That's a solid point. You can't argue with good logic.
My pattern that is like, Brandon, hello, stop it, is squirrel, Squirrel. What else, bro? I'm just trying to get a nut from that tree. Okay. Not here with the tree. Like, like that is my one pattern that I often like either revert back to, or I'm just like, Brandon, stop, wait. And it's never while I'm with someone. Like if I'm committed to someone, the hoe is so repressed and so like I'm committed, I'm in a monogamy. But the second I'm single, it's another ball game.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
okay. So I'll see if I can tie this in. I'm not positive that I can. I've left this door open for a second. I think I can tie this together.
and you don't have to. You don't even have
No,
to.
no, no. But I
Really,
think that I actually can. It's more
go
interesting to
for it.
me if we can. If not, I'll just go segue and do jazz hands, and then we'll be in the new thing. It's fine. So
Segway.
just so what I was thinking of was what you said has to do with this very unresearched and ridiculously loose concept that I have been playing with for a few years now, of looking at things as, we're all looking for, well, what's the fourth dimension? The fourth dimension is time, and if we could just unlock time and time travel, then we could understand ourselves. And it's this very Slaughterhouse-Five thing. But the truth is, your past, your version of your past, which is constantly changing and evolving. You can always look back at it and look at it in your own way. You exist in your present, and you're creating your future, which has got also endless possibilities. So there's this kind of multiverse thing. I'm nerding out on an idea that doesn't make sense. The thing is, what you said was you've got to exist in the now. And what I think is almost more important is that sometimes the now, genuinely, as beautiful as all of your gifts are, sucks. It fucking sucks. Like there's no other, it doesn't actually suck, but it's really hard to just like Jocko Willink your way out of it and be like, fuck that. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna fucking push on. I'm going to change my perspective and just flip the switch in my brain, and suddenly I'll be okay. But if you look back at the past that brought you to the now, that's where I find so much strength. That's where I find so much of whatever your interpretation of it is, but what God can do, what the universe can do. I look back and I go, wait a second. Okay, so I was single, I was sad, I was looking for the love of my life. I wasn't really happy with my job, even though I was doing my dream job. And then now I'm here, and I didn't get that job. I didn't get that job. And that happened within 24 hours last week, where I didn't get two very big jobs, and I was like, oh, fuck, man, fucking. But the truth is, the only reason that I got to a place where I could complain about not getting two very big fucking jobs while living in a beautiful apartment with the love of my life is all of those things in my past that led me to this now. So sometimes looking at the now doesn't help me, but looking at the past that brought me to the now, and all of those moments where I went, there's no way it's going to work out. It fucking did. So sometimes when the now sucks, I don't look at the now as much as I look at, okay, there were other moments that brought me here. And before the year 2020, I used to say that I wish that I could use hindsight now. If I could look from my future self to my current self, I would be so happy that I just wrote it out and stuck to my fucking guns. And Brandon, you just called me and talked to me about this thing where you stick to your guns. I stuck to my
Yeah.
guns about Ange. I believed that I would find Ange more than anything else in the world. And other than that, on a personal, like just other than relationship wise, personally, career-wise, I know what my map is. I don't know how it's going to happen. Never have. I didn't know it before. Like I said to you, I didn't know it before Dirty Dancing. Didn't know it before This Close. I didn't know it before anything. But I know where I would like to end up. And this takes me back to my final point, which is Jon. I don't know if it's over here in the. I don't know why this mirrors my screen. But there's something to be said for just. This is going to sound pacifistic. I don't know. Sometimes it's the motherfuckers who are willing to wait it out. If you love it enough, you'll stay through the shit. And if you don't, you didn't love it enough to deserve it in the fucking first place.
I think Bob Marley has a similar quote to that. It's like, if she's worth it. While we're talking, I'll look it up. But it's
no, that's
exactly
just funny because on our conversation, I paraphrased highly another Bob Marley thing.
No, I mean it's true, and even if it's not Bob Marley, right? Like, life rewards the ones who can weather certain storms. It will. If you can weather this storm, you deserve and are worthy of the sun you will bask in. Period.
Hey, that's a much prettier way to say what I like that. Put that in instead. I like that one.
Well, I found the one because I used to love this, and it's especially the way he ends it. He says, "If she's amazing, she won't be easy. If she's easy, she won't be amazing. If she's worth it, you won't give up. If you give up, you're not worthy. Truth is, everyone is going to hurt you, or everybody's going to hurt you. You just got to find the ones worth suffering for." There's an interesting way he ends it, because he ends it in a way like everyone's going to hurt you, but in reality, it's one of the things like there's going to be pain along the journey. There's going to be like it's going to be difficult at times, but the ones who are worth it, the ones we put the work in, the reward will be there.
And that's Robert Marley, you said?
Yes.
Roberto Marley. Oh man.
No, I think I like how
that's
you said that.
incredible.
I think part of it in the moment, and kind of how you said you look back at everything that led you to where you're at, and I think I kind of do something similar, but in the way I look at it is coming from a place of gratitude. I'm grateful for these things, and in a sense, being able to look at everything I am, because that's what on my drive back last night, I was like, all right, I'm thinking of 30 things right now that I'm grateful for. And I'm like, okay, let me start thinking. And then I started going through it, and then I went way past 30.
Oh,
I started realizing, man, I am so fucking blessed. I'm so grateful for everything that I have, how lucky I am in the life I have created. It gets hard at times, and we just have to remind ourselves, if it wasn't hard, we wouldn't appreciate when it's easy, or if it wasn't difficult at times, we wouldn't appreciate when it's really good. And that's what I sometimes think is like, you have to have some bad to really understand when it's good. If you always had it good, it'd be complacent, and you wouldn't appreciate what you have.
I think for me and my whole my dad made a joke when I was like 15, and he said, "Did you figure out the women thing yet?" And I said, "What women thing?" And he said, "Well, if you don't know now, you're gonna learn it. You're gonna find out." I turned 22. I was 22, and my world changed dramatically. I had just gotten out of my first serious relationship that was over 4 years long. I was single for about a year before that. And then I kind of went into this space of like, well, what is it like to not try and find a wife and just be single? And at 22, I realized that I had an effect on women, right? They felt safe with me. And so being safe with me meant that I could really disarm a lot of different women, not any, I won't say any, because that's a little presumptuous, but I could disarm a lot of different women, which would lead to me then being intimate with them.
Arming.
What'd you say?
I was gonna say disrobing because it was a play on the disarming thing, but it wasn't funny enough. But then I said it. So this episode is simultaneously great and also hilarious. I apologize.
Yes,
I didn't mean to
disarming.
interrupt you.
No. Don't apologize. Disarming and disrobing, because disarming is to disrobe. So, but then in their world, you're the different guy. And when you're the different guy, you can't be the different guy that does the same thing that another guy does. You can't be the guy that's vulnerable, but then ended the same way the guy who wasn't vulnerable and then had sex with her, but then you both ended the same way. You can't be that, which is, hey, I'm not really looking for a relationship. I'm looking for commitment, but let's have fun. And their end result of emotion is the same. So I think, for me, I had to stop myself when I finally got this kind of pass of feeling wanted and feeling desirable and being the hot guy. I had to really look and say, well, what impact do I want to leave on the people that I am with romantically, the people that I see in intimate capacity? And am I communicating clearly enough to where it's consent? If it's an understanding of, you're just looking to have sex, I'm just looking to have sex, we're not looking for anything else, that's consent, that's adult, that's mature, that's respect, that's real. You can do that, you can have that. But when it's, I like you, I like hanging out with you, I like spending time with you, I want to learn more about you. And then you're watching a movie, and watching a movie is not really watching a movie, and watching a movie turns into cuddling, and cuddling turns into, oh, my hand's on your stomach, and my hand on your stomach turns into sex. You knew what you were doing before you ever got there to watch the movie. And that's the part people don't want to own and don't want to acknowledge, is before I ever got to your place, I knew my intention of why I was coming over. And that's the habit that's like, I can't, even if I wanted to say, oh, well, I didn't know why I was coming over. Because the second the text is sent.
You had a hope. I think there's a level of, I would be...
Colt, I would be lying to you if I said it was a hope. If I send that text, if I get in my truck to go there.
Mm-hmm. Right, but if you claim that it's a foregone conclusion,
yeah,
that's an assumption on your part. But I would be incredibly surprised. This took a turn, but I would be incredibly surprised if you, knowing what I know about you, and you decided that for someone else. If you got there and all the signals were suddenly the other way, you'd be like, God, what the fuck happened here? But you wouldn't push it just because you had decided.
I think that's a different scenario, right? Like, if I know my intention is to go over there for sex, I'm gonna read.
Then it's already been communicated. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And so
no, I just want to, but just because, though, that's something that unfortunately is something that does need clarification in the moment of, of the conversation. It's just something that, because our audience is not just exactly who we are, that's a necessary thing. With that, what I like is the acknowledgement. You're acknowledging that, look, that's a party. And like you said, and John, it's the same thing of what you said. And it's the same thing essentially of what I said. I'm very thankful that this wasn't a topic where y'all were like, never done it, never ever had that feeling where I went back on something I already fixed. I fixed it. Fuck it. It's done. Like, that would have been surprising to me, but I'm also thankful that it wasn't that. Because that's the kind of interesting, hard thing about these conversations sometimes, is like we delve into which is the goal of these, which is Jon, Brandon, why I called you first, and then Jon, why I called you after, and why I talked to Ange before any of it, was that the point of this is for us to be vulnerable and to show our flaws and to show ourselves working through these things, and to remind people that Brandon, much like you said, Jon, we look at you and we're going, what? What are you fucking talking? Why are you? I'm what? Like, that's a great thing to then look at and realize. And I think, Brandon, you've been touching on this over the past couple of episodes, which I really like, which is essentially it's all a matter of perspective, but it's how people view you based on your platform versus who you are as a human being, what you're striving towards
Yes, sir.
versus who you are in that moment. Now, your platform, just like, and I think this is so important. And I have been trying to figure out where to kind of dive into writing this episode or piece from, but I think this is the kind of the inlet, as it were. I have a channel about love, about all of the parts of love, about helping you find the love you deserve. I fucking argue with Ange all the time. We like, not all the time, but like, we have arguments, we disagree, we get testy with each other. Shit's not this perfect thing that people think that you are if you want for something better, is the kind of madness of media, of social media. It's this hard thing, this line that we all toe. Jon, by having the Refinery, the kind of cool thing that I think you're doing is acknowledging, in and of itself, watch that if you haven't. Everybody, watch In and of Itself on Hulu if you haven't watched it tonight. Finish this episode, maybe watch 2 or 3 more, and then go watch that. It's incredible. But the Refinery in and of itself is an explanation that we are inherently flawed and that we are working to be better. I love that. I love that that's an acknowledgement that when I saw NewAgeGents, hey, I got one. When I saw NewAgeGents, that was something that I vibed with just because I knew you, because by the time I found NewAgeGents, I knew you. Oddly enough, some of my friends, it's been years that you and I have known each other, Brandon. Some of my friends,
years,
like literally, and some of my friends have been like,
2014.
"Wait, you know the guy from NewAgeGents? I follow that account on Instagram," and I'm like, "That makes sense. Like, that's not a big surprise to me." But it's funny to me because they see you as a certain thing that has figured it out because, and I think a lot of people, and we try every time with the channel, with Part of Love, to paint that picture of like, look, we don't have all the answers, but I definitely know for sure that this is a part of love. Like, this is a part of being a gentleman in the new age. This is a part of refining yourself that way. Like, there's something to that I'm very appreciative of.
Well, these conversations are just like what we get to learn ourselves from it. But at the same time, I think it allows other people to see a new perspective and allows them to go and have a conversation with someone. And I think that's why, like, a lot of this is created. It's like we understand, like you said, it's like we all know we're flawed, and then we're trying to refine ourselves. And it's a choice. It's a choice to decide to refine yourself. It's a choice to improve yourself, or like find where you want to grow. It's a choice. And so even just these conversations, it's a choice for us to get on here every week, figure out our schedules, and make sure that we get in a conversation and have these discussions and talk about what comes up. Hey, this is what I'm dealing with this week, but I'm curious to see how you guys deal with it, because maybe there's something I can learn from you guys. And that's exactly how you started this episode. Is like, I've been here before. Why am I here again? And it's just like, oh, this is come to realize that this is always going to be here. But the way I get to respond, it's like this one statement keeps popping up the past couple of days: E plus R equals O. I learned it from a workshop. Experience plus reaction or response equals outcome. The only thing we have control over is response. The experience is going to happen how the experience happens. The outcome is going to basically be dictated by how the experience plus our reaction leads to. We can't control these outcomes, but we can control our response. And it's like how we choose to respond to that moment. When those emotions show up, or that feeling shows up, or that frustration shows up, it's our choice to, in that moment. And the more conscious we are in the moment, the quicker we can catch it, and the quicker we can pay attention to how we respond. Because I'm a person that before I'm ready, I would throw it down. Like, someone wants to get in an argument, let's go. Like, I'm happy. I loved debating when I was younger. But what I realized is that with women, I was an asshole, and with guys, I was just I could be a piece of shit. I would say some dumb shit, but it was because I didn't pay attention to what's actually happening in the moment, rather than focusing on like what I'm feeling right now. And being able to, now I'm a person that is just like, if I'm really frustrated, I'm like, I'm gonna need some time. And like, no, let's talk about this. I'm like, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna talk about this right now. I gave the example a couple of weeks ago about just like getting in with my roommate and just being able to understand, like, hey, in the moment, you were the problem. But if you give me time, which I did take to process, I didn't realize you weren't the problem. You were shedding light on what the problem was. In the moment, I didn't want to look at what the light was shining on. I'm pissed at the person shining light. Why are you putting light on this? I don't want to look at this. But really, when it comes down to is, what is it shining light on? And I get to look at that. And the quicker being able to catch those things, I'm like, oh, in this moment, I'm actually not feeling heard. I'm feeling that my opinion doesn't matter. And if you get to a point where in the moment, I can bring it up. And the same thing, if you're feeling frustration or you're feeling just short-tempered, where's that coming from? Like, let me get to the source, because the quicker I can get to the source, the quicker I can figure out how to respond to this and almost correct it in the moment so it doesn't happen again. Because that's what we're really going for. We're never going to avoid those situations. It's just how can we avoid it from happening as it has in the past.
So what I'm hearing though is that essentially step one for anybody watching, step one for all of us is acknowledgement. Step one is acknowledgement. Like, if we can, the quicker you can get between reaction and acknowledgement, it's going to lead you to a better reaction the next time, to a resolve, to some sort of resolution, right? So if nothing else, if you take nothing else away from this, if we take nothing else away from this, I know that what I'm taking away from this is, step one for me is acknowledgement. The quicker I can acknowledge it, and it's funny, I don't mean to commandeer this conversation, but I just had a visual in my head of Brandon, and it just has to do with just horses and snakes, just a big bad mix up, and seeing that, like, let's say you're riding, just because we haven't talked about it tonight, why not? You're riding, your horse gets spooked for whatever reason, right?
Sure.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
If you don't acknowledge that, and you just like, you have to ride. I think my dad said something the other day. We were talking about riding, and he said you have to ride every single day for, I think what he said was, you have to ride every single day for 6 weeks to even begin to know your horse. Like, you need to be there, because you have to build a relationship at the base fucking minimum. And
You
I thought it
tell
was
Pop.
yeah, no, I got you. We'll talk. I think I'm going up there Friday to work. It's gonna be great. And to ride, which is gonna be fucking awesome. But either way, we talked about this in a recent episode, that the moment between how, like, when you're riding and shit is going smooth and then something goes wrong, you have to have trained yourself. You have to, in these low risk situations, practice this acknowledgement and response. Like step two is going to be your I guess refinement, of your
And
actions,
you're
and
writing.
then your response.
Yeah.
So your step three is your
Yes,
response.
sir.
And how quickly can you encounter a situation, assess the situation, choose how you're going to respond, and then make that action. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's self-defense, whether it's riding, whether it's just our day-to-day fucking lives, this is the pathway that we have to start, the neural pathway we have to start fucking carving to make it a smooth channel that just, best case scenario, we get into that situation, we go through the steps. You just roll through it like a real smooth fucking riff. You know what I mean? Like just a clean fucking sound. You don't even hear it. You don't understand it. It's just beautiful. That's the goal that we're all chasing. That's the goal that I've been coming up flat and sharp a lot lately. I've been hearing a lot of sharp notes in my responses because I'm not acknowledging. I'm skipping entire notes. Sorry, this ref metaphor went off the. It's a thing. I think there's something to those steps that I know will help me, and I hope will help somebody watching this. So,
I mean, I acknowledge what the both of you have shared tonight, because for me to get out of my old pattern, right, I had to first acknowledge what would trigger me or put me into that space of like, I want something, I want to feel something, you know?
yeah.
And when I have that, with the second I feel the whole like, trying to feel something, I'm like, wait a minute. Well, okay, if that's the case, why? Like, I'm stopping me. I'm questioning me now on what before would have been like, and blindly fall into, not blindly, but blindly fall into someone else's emotion, someone's body, someone sharing energy with me, and then being like, oh, I didn't know that was happening. And it's like, no, you very well knew from 2 weeks ago when she sent that text at 10 at night that tonight was going to happen. You knew. Most men know well in advance before they sleep with someone that it's going to happen. You just have to be very smart about the choices you make. You can fuck it up. She can send you the sign of, I'm interested. And within that first week, you can fuck it completely up. But if you play it, and what you're giving her is what she wants and what she's saying, okay, he's playing this quite well. I like that. I like how he's pursuing me. I like how this is happening. And the second I send that, what you doing tonight? You want to hang out? The second,
You up?
and she said, you up? And the second she says, yeah, come through, there's nothing in my mind that would say, well, by the time I get there, I don't know if she's gonna wanna, I just don't know if it's gonna happen. I don't know.
I can
Colt.
appreciate that. I can
I
appreciate
don't
that.
know. There's nothing in me that's saying that. When I pull up at that house, freshly showered, with a hoodie, some sweats, some tube socks, and some slides, and some condoms, I know exactly what's gonna happen. Whether it's 15 minutes in, an hour, he's like, damn, you're so honest tonight. 15 minutes
I'm in.
in.
Hey, I'm into it. That's the point.
If it's 15 minutes in, 45, an hour in, I know at some point we're gonna get to a point to where we cut the bullshit, we cut the pleasantries, we cut the how was your week, how are you doing, how are you feeling today, and the thing that I came over for, the thing she wanted me over for, happens. But the issue, or the reason I'm even bringing this up, is the after. The after is her question of, well, what are we? What are we doing? My thought is, I gotta get to the crib. I gotta take the boys out. So I'm not even thinking about her. because the very thing that I knew was going to happen 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when I was setting this up, happened. And the hope of, well, man, if she's that cool, she'll just keep letting me come over on my time. But anyone who's anyone understands that that particular game gets old real fast. Because it's on your time, your feelings, your emotions. And Valentine's Day is coming up in 4 days. And she wants to know, what do you have planned for Valentine's Day? In my mind, I'm saying, and this is old me, but old me is saying nothing. Why would I? We just had sex. But now I understand that sex isn't just sex for people. Right? When I understand that sex isn't just sex, when I understand that me giving my body away isn't me just giving my body away, it's me actually asking for something deeper. I'm asking for something more meaningful, but in the moment to cover, in the moment to avoid dealing with real emotions and real vulnerability, I say, well, I just was coming over to hang out. But really what I'm asking for, I want companionship, but I don't know how to ask for it. I want someone who sees me, but I don't know how to ask for it. I really want to have a very open and transparent conversation, but I don't know how to ask for it. I really want to say that I'm scared about the transition from my job to this career that I'm doing, but I don't know how to ask for it. But what I do know how to do, I'm really good at. I'm really good at it saying, you look really nice in that dress, by the way. No, you look fantastic. You look absolutely mesmerizing. No, come on, stop. What are you talking about? Come on.
You're good at your old pattern.
And I repeated an old pattern with no new outcome. So I appreciate you challenging and posing this tonight. Because if I want a new future, I can't repeat an old pattern.
Yeah. I think it also has to do with specifically where those patterns occur. My patterns with regards to my professional career have entirely changed in the last year. The way that I respond professionally. Within the last 2 months, my personal patterns outside of the home with nothing to do with Ange have modulated at like a 40% difference rate, like a 60-40 split that used to be like 90-10. That before that was like 10-90. Like I used to just be pissy 24/7. And John, you talk about, you know, how your responses were, and Brandon, you're talking about how you are, you know, with your relationships with sex.
Yeah.
Like obviously I've been in both of those scenarios. I actually had a talk the other day. I think, oh no, it was with my buddy Billy, and I was like, I used to intentionally try to start fights. Like I would, if someone just looked at whoever I was with for too long, I would just make a point to make some kind of shit with them, just to try and see. I was like, fuck it, worst case scenario. And the truth is, the whole reason I was doing that was an entirely different reason. I was doing that because I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to handle myself if shit got out of hand. So I was like, no, I'm gonna get on top of this. And that's what I'm kind of doing now. I'm sitting there in these situations, and whether it's traffic or, you know, people just being shitty to you, and you're like, no, I'm gonna be shitty back. No, I'm gonna out shitty you. No, it's ridiculous. But acknowledging that, I dig it. And I actually, I think the last solo episode that I did on the channel was about exactly, Brandon, what you're talking about, which is playing games. It's playing games. But the truth is, and this is a hard thing for me to acknowledge at least, I loved like dating. I loved those games that I felt like we were playing like together. And then it always ended with it wasn't us playing it together. It was me playing them apparently. And I'm very
And on their
confused about
end,
how, yeah. And I was very confused about that. But the truth is, I mean, my truth is, regardless, playing games is at the end of the day, the goal from the fucking jump, from the outset, is manipulation. And that's a hard thing. It was when I suddenly made that connection that I was like, oh, nope, no, I don't want to do that. I thought this was like a fun
yeah,
thing that we all do, and like this is how
yeah.
dating works and blah blah blah. But the truth is, games are manipulation. Games are us not being honest. And the only reason that I find it morally and ethically acceptable to play games is when you know that you're both playing games. And when you know you're both playing games, it's not really as interesting. And also, how the fuck do you know if you're both playing games? And so it gets
Well,
into this.
then it
I
becomes
think,
foreplay,
and I
right?
think
It's
that's
no longer a
communication.
game; it's foreplay. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a whole other episode, maybe a season. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, I think one of the things also I want to presence is it's paying attention to the triggers that go into the old habits. What's
Mm-hmm.
triggering? Oh shit, here it is again. Here it is right now. It's happening right now. What has just triggered this? Because like for me, I know the one place I see frustration coming the quickest. It's like if it's a 1 lane road and the right lane is for right turn and someone comes on the last second, man, that's like the one thing from 0 to 100. I get so pissed. And I used to ask, I'm like, why the hell does this piss me off so much? And I came to realize it's someone cutting in front of me in life. Now, granted, in the moment, the example is someone
Ooh.
cutting in line, but really, I don't like the fact that I've been waiting, I've been putting to work, staying in line. I'm in my turn's coming up, and then someone shoves their way in, and now I'm pushed back one. And I realized it was okay, but then it took me a moment to then ask myself, what if that person is running to the hospital? What if that person is running to a job they might be late? What happens if that person is going through an emergency? What if that
Yes,
person
sir.
is just an asshole? Beyond the point. At the end of the day, I don't know what's going on in that car. All I can do is just judge what is going on in my moment. But I'm now more and more realizing my trigger point, where now what I do is I look left. As long as I pay attention to traffic, but I don't pay attention to that car that comes on the right side because that's like trigger point. And it's paying attention to the triggers because I see that trigger point leads to an old pattern, and I'm trying to change this old pattern. So instead of looking right, I'm gonna start paying attention because I used to watch my right mirror. I'm like, this motherfucker's coming. I don't even see anyone coming, but someone's coming. Someone's gonna come and cut me off, and I like it's almost creating the issue. I'm almost wanting the habit or the old pattern to show up so I can get frustrated. And like, there you go, life screwing me over again.
Yeah.
When in reality, I was like, no, that's just life doing its thing. I have a choice to choose if I want to look for it, or I can look left and basically just continue on with my own life. And I think that trigger point is a key thing, is paying attention to all the things we're talking about, whether it
Or you can
be
let them,
when
or
it
you
comes to
can let them in intentionally, going, you're not going to change anything for me. I may miss one light, but like, we're good.
But with all this, but I'm saying even with relationship, with
Yeah, yeah,
being
yeah,
in short
yeah.
temper, with
No, I'm
all
with
this
you.
stuff,
I'm
it's
with
like
you.
paying attention. The the more we're conscious, again, being conscious of the trigger point, but also when relationships and stuff, when it has to pertain to someone else involved in it, I think it's the communication. And I think a lot of the issues come when that's proper communication wasn't dealt with at the right time. And sometimes it's dealt with afterwards, after the action has already happened. It doesn't even need to be sex necessarily. It could be necessarily the flirtation of like I forget where I saw it one time. It's like I'm gonna butcher it, but it basically is like, don't turn the sparks on in a woman's heart if you have no intention of igniting, like building the fire, kind of thing, or something in that sense. It's
Okay.
like going and
Oh, yeah,
starting a
I get it.
fire, but at the same time talking to someone and being like, hey, I see there's some sparks. Should we entertain these sparks and see where it goes, knowing this is the intention, that it's not, we're not building a long-term fire. We're not building this for the whole night. We're just going to see where the sparks go.
This is a starter log.
Yeah, this is just a starter
This is a
log. We want
KOA.
the starter log go out and we're done.
We gave you some dry wood and a fucking starter log. Don't fuck it up.
We're not
See
hoping.
ya.
Yeah, we're not. We're
We
hoping this fire.
pre-cut your kindling.
We want a fire to like take care of building the warmth for life kind of thing. But unless that's what you're looking for, and you have that intentional conversation. But I think communication is that other key.
I want to come back
I'm
to
sorry.
communication after we go to Brandon, and I know it's late, and fuck it,
No.
just Brandon.
The fucking starter lock. I can't take it.
Unwrap the
People-
starter lock.
people need
The
it
rest
for
is
life.
wrapped in saran wrap. It's fine. It's cling wrap. Unwrap it. It's been dried. The little sticks
my
go in
God.
a TP.
Man, I mean, this has been quite the conversation. You know, what I've learned is I've been more clear about what my end goal is with people I've dated or seen. And that is, for me, is family and a wife. And that saves me a lot of time. And it's clear to whoever I'm dating. And so before sometimes it even gets to the point to where it's physical, if I share that piece, it really tells me where someone's headspace is at. You know, if they don't want kids, if they don't want to deal with 2 large dogs and a horse, then I'm a little more aware of the person I'm dealing with. And it's been a massive help, because now if I'm intimate with someone, I'm at least intimate with someone who has the potential chance of us building a relationship together. The problem before was I was intimate with people who didn't even have the slightest chance of us being romantic. But you're hot, you got a great ass. You know, like that to me was the decision I had to start making was, is it more about conquest, or is it more about you want sex, but do you have to have sex with every person you're attracted to? The answer is no. Do you find yourself attracted to someone who may potentially be in a relationship with? Yes. Do you want to cut the sex off? No. So then, you know, and that was my build. Those are my building blocks. Asking myself those questions, because I saw the damage it was doing. Now, what was interesting was how the fuck I didn't know how to process hurting people who I hadn't had sex with. That's what was interesting recently, which was, if we didn't have sex, but I saw this, we didn't have a future together, and I said, hey, this isn't going to be a good fit. Do I still treat myself, or do I still handle it the same way that I did before, when I was having sex and not really addressing the person's feelings, and then saying, well, I didn't really know, or I'm sorry. That's been interesting for me recently to navigate. But in that space, I've been better at navigating like their story or their thing they've told themselves has nothing to do with me, my choice that I've made. Because for me, I know that I'm doing the right thing by not getting all the way involved, not getting their hopes up, not introducing them to family, not introducing them to close friends, not meeting their friends, not meeting their family. So things aren't tangled and tight and all these different things to then say, oh, well, it's not going to work. It's like, before you ever get to the place where you say it's not going to work, let's just see if you and I work. Let's not involve all these extra parties. No one that I am not seriously considering dating is meeting my dogs. For the very fact that if I say it's not going to work, or I don't think this is going to be a thing, there's no, well, I've met your dogs and I've done this and I've done that. Or you've met my parents. If I see or you see that it's not going to be a good fit, let's not even do the meet my best friend, I'm into my best friend about you. Let's not do all the extras. Let's just see if you and I fit. If you and I fit, if you think you and I can build from here, then we will become a little more intimate. And then from there, we'll become a little more intimate. And then from there, we may become a little more physical. And then from there, and then from there, and then from there. So for this whole topic you brought up tonight, Colt, I think for me, I've been able to say, this part of me still exists. I don't think the part of me that is very visual and very physically driven is ever going to go anywhere. But I
Hope
know
not.
now that, well, what I mean by that is like, even if I'm married, I'm sure there's a part of me that may still be like,
No,
fuck,
I understood what you meant.
she's, oh, really? Is this
Yeah,
another episode?
I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I
Wait,
don't think so.
what are you thinking I'm saying?
Well, now I'm realizing that we're saying two different things, but that are both to be acknowledged. Just because that primal thing still happens with Angelina. What happens after I hang up on this phone call is my business and is within our, like, you know, like that part. I'm a visual creature. That's why
Yeah,
I chose a partner that is also a visual creature and is also a fucking specimen and a feast for the eyes. Like,
yeah,
why? I but within
yes,
that, I think what else you're saying is something that we've talked about a lot, which is I think it's a ridiculous acknowledgement to say just because you're married, you don't see that other people are attractive. That's fucking
Mhm.
absolutely ridiculous. Your brain doesn't just shut off. Within that,
right,
though, there is
right.
never a first off. Also, one thing that, well, not first off, the 13th off. I don't know where we are in this conversation, but one thing that I've found that happens is that other people over time, regardless of if someone is attractive, it's just an acknowledgement of like, huh, like it becomes more of that kind of thing, or at least it became that for me. I know that she
Yeah,
sees people that are hot and is like, oh my god, that guy's so fucking hot. And I know she does about girls because she constantly will be like, oh my god, she's so fucking hot. Oh my god, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. And like that's like that. It's not for us to not
Appreciation.
acknowledge that we like are attracted sexual beings. It's the fact that I, I chose right. I chose right on
Mhm.
purpose. I specifically I specifically chased my wife because I wanted that to be the person that I got to wake up next to all the time and go to bed with and go to bed with. Like
yes,
that's
Lord,
that's on
hallelujah.
purpose. And
Yes,
for
Jesus.
me, I don't under I could not be in a relationship with somebody that I was not attracted to. Now, to say this also, 11 years attraction is so much larger. Like it I also don't get this whole thing about like we stopped having sex, man. It's just not the same. No, sex is fucking awesome. A decade in, if you actually grow and change, if you actually
Mhm.
continue being like working to be better versions of yourselves, to be sexy for each other. If you want that, you can have it.
Mhm.
And I am in no way ashamed to say, like, I am fortunate, lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it, but 10 years didn't put a fucking dent in it. This is awesome. Like, it's amazing. With all of that said, though, like, I think I'll try and get through the doors real quick because I know I've kept them open. John, um, what one of the things that you were talking about, that it's not like a parry that I have for it, but not necessarily a counter. It doesn't matter. Um, it goes back to the Esther Perel, right? Mating in captivity.
Mm, yeah,
Sometimes what I've found is that over communication. If I communicate too much, it's over. It's just, if while we're talking about sex, like no way, because she's not into, if she's like, god, stop telling me everything you're thinking all the time. Like, I need to not know everything that's going on in your brain, because sometimes we start to just like verbally dump, and we call it communication. And I think that there's this fine line that I had to find of not communicating at all and then having this valve opened by her and being like, oh my God, I can talk to somebody, I can see somebody, somebody can see me. I want to show them everything. And she was like, we'll pump the brakes a little bit, like leave something for me to, that's cool. Like, let's figure it out. So it's going to be a fine line. There is no answer, with that. And, that takes me to the other thing the other door that was open. Brandon, you were talking about how, like, when we're triggered, and I'm using you because this came up. And it's something that I have gone through. But in my mind, something that you said earlier that kind of ties back into this is, how do you McConaughey your way out of that situation? You said that it's in the now. We've all said, in the now, I feel this way, but how do we go? Yes, you want a wife, you want kids, that your person's got to love big dogs and horses, like, or at least got to, like, love big dogs and be around horses. Like, what? I don't know, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your reaction in the moment when you just want to fuck, like, that doesn't necessarily mean in that moment that you're seeing that. So what if you looked at it from your future self, looking back on that moment, and go, is that the person that I wanted to be in that moment? Is that, once we have that acknowledgement, is this who I want to look back on myself as? Sometimes you got to throw caution to the wind. I totally get that. Fucking stories on stories on stories. But if you have that acknowledgement, if you have the time, if you can pump those brakes, maybe go, who do I want to be tomorrow when I wake up? Who do I want to be a year from now? Who do I want to be 5 years from now? Is this the last, like it? And you've said this a couple of times, Brandon. If you were driving on the 405, like, and you got hit, semi hits you, comes out of fucking nowhere, is that the last action you wanted to take? It's just something to think about.
If I could add to a quote
Please
that comes
do.
to mind, because your future self is watching you right now through its memories. And that's something I remind myself when I'm about to do something, whether it be in relationships, whether it be whatever, where I'm questioning if I should do something. I remind myself my future self is looking back to this moment. And is my future self going to be happy with what I'm about to decide? And if in the moment I'm like, nope, then I know right there. Because we deep down know. We know what we should and shouldn't be doing. We know if it aligns. But it really comes down to, are we satisfying some short-term pleasure, perk, whatever you want to call it, or are we actually aligning to the long-term benefit and long-term goal that we actually want? And I think being able to remind ourselves, what is our future self going to think about this exact moment? Because I have a brief moment right now to decide if I want to move forward with this, and I'm going to be happy with this decision down the road with what I'm about to do. And I think that's a big thing, that, like, being able to pause, like you're saying, is like pause and really ask ourselves in that moment, are we going in the right direction, or are we just satisfying something short term?
I love that. It just connects it. It makes it less meta. The meta shit never works for me. It doesn't, man. Because I'm like, I don't fucking care. I don't care if but when you tie it to me, if it's somebody else judging me, and that's always been a hard thing for me with regards to, growing up with religion. That was a hard thing for me, of being like, somebody else is judging me and deciding my fate based on my actions, as opposed to the minute that I connected to my future self, that thing that you just said, those conversations I used to tell you all about, like just walking and talking. I had one of those conversations for the first time, like 6 months, 3 months. I don't know. Time is a flat circle. Walking Maya the other day, and I was just talking to myself, and I was like, "Hey, man, how you been?" And it probably looked weird to the neighbors, but like made me feel really good, because I was like, "Oh, no, these are the things you're thinking. These are the things," and it connects me to me, which is exactly what you just said, and I fucking love that. What am I gonna think about it? because I can talk to me. I can't necessarily get answers from anything else or anybody else that I know are true. I can get them. I can get them from me. I know what I do and do not believe is the right thing to do here. How do we shorten that? How do we create that half-life? Just
Question for Colt and a question for Colt and John. Colt, you didn't really answer this. How do you handle, once it arises, your short temper? How do you handle that anger? How do you handle that bubble? Because I have that. I know exactly what that feels like, and it can be very like real fast. And the person on the other end is like, oh my God, like, and for me, I'm so stubborn, and I don't know about you, I'm so stubborn that I won't immediately go back to, I'm not even going to fix it. I'm going to leave it because I knew exactly intentionally where I wanted to place that snap and that bite, and I put it there.
yeah. If I'm not careful, I'll double down on it. I feel you.
I will double fucking down on it. And then John, for you, real quick, so John can answer as soon as you get done. John, for you, I know you had the 30 things you were grateful for by the time you got home, but how is how you combat your comparative spirit, your self-worth and self-doubt, right? Like, is your thing always trying to overshadow with gratitude? Because gratitude, I think, sometimes doesn't necessarily mean you start to understand your worth and value and what you're doing. So how do you two, yes, sir. Yes, sir. How do you two then put action, and John, I guess you'll go first. How do you put action behind this to change that mindset, to change that thought, to change that narrative? John, what do you do?
Well, I think gratitude is the last step because it grounds me back to where I want to be. So I'll touch on that gratitude part. But I think the first part is what we were saying before is the awareness. What is coming up right now? Because this person, whoever is bringing up the emotion that I'm feeling right now, isn't the issue. They're shedding light on something that I don't want to look at or don't want to deal with, and it's something that deep that can go 0 to 100 that quick. And so really understanding, okay, what the hell is coming up with me right now? What is the emotion? What is stemming from the emotion that I'm feeling right now? And I think there's moments I can go and get frustrated real quick. Part of me tries to now acknowledge, okay, hey, you're frustrated. Take a beat, because don't respond off this emotion because you're gonna say something stupid. And so that's like the first step, is acknowledging, hey, you're frustrated. Like, take a moment. But being able to really ask myself, what is this stemming from? Because a lot of times the other person isn't the issue. Most time the person's the mirror. I was talking to my buddy about this today, and he was saying most of our issues in life aren't with anyone else. It's ourself.
Yes.
People are the example that bring it out of us. People are the mirror that get us to see it. But the quicker that we can look at ourselves and be, okay, what is actually coming up for me? What is it that's bothering me in this moment? Because it has nothing to do with the other person. Because in reality, it's the same thing. I think we talked about it last week. I don't care to get in fights with people I don't give a shit about anymore. Like, if it's someone random on the street, I'm like, you don't, like, even if I win this argument, there's nothing I can get out of this. But if it's someone I care about, like, I'm willing to go into it because I care about this person and I care about the outcome because I want us to grow from it. I want this to continue. And so being able to look at it as like, and like taking responsibility for our side. I think that's very easy to look at the other person and be like, this is what the issue is. But it's being able to come up and taking responsibility is like, and even if the other person, let's say the other person caused all the problem and we reacted, at least taking responsibility for our reaction. Hey, you know what? I realized that I said some shit I shouldn't have said. The reason I did is because of this and this. And I think part of what I've learned also, and I was hearing this earlier, it's boundaries. Because it could be one thing that's different if you're on the street, but if it's with someone close, because the example that was given to me on a call right before this one, if you're in the kitchen and you have a dog and you tell the dog not to come in the kitchen while you're cooking, and the dog stands there and it gives you these little pouty eyes, you're like, oh, I love this little thing. All right, fine, come in the kitchen. And it comes in the kitchen, and okay, Next day you're cooking and it comes to the door and the nose not supposed to come in and it gives you little pouty eyes. You're like, oh fuck, I love this dog. All right, come on in. And then the third day it comes, doesn't even ask, doesn't give you the pouty eyes, it just walks straight in. And you're like, yo, what the hell? What are you doing? Get out of the kitchen. You know you're not supposed to be here. Now the dog's like, what the fuck? You did the last 2 times you told me I didn't know I need to ask. Like, what the fuck? Now
You're sending mixed signals, bro.
Yeah. Well, but part of it is that we are, how the guy was telling me, our boundary is porous. It's not rigid that we're holding our ground. We're making this loose boundary where like, yeah, but if you push it or if you're cute enough or you're sweet enough, you can get by that boundary and it's going to be okay. And what we're really doing is allowing ourselves to not keep our boundary. And then we are then disappointed because that person disrespected my boundary. No. We disrespect our boundary because we didn't stand our ground.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Bam.
There's something to fucking everything you just said. There was a step 1, which is the what, right? And I think that my step 2 is what your step 1 actually means. But I think that we all need to have it drilled back into our fucking heads constantly, which is what and why. I know what happens to me. I know exactly what happens to me in those moments. That never solves it for me. For me, it's why. And I think that's what you were saying. But I tend to go back to this phrase, what and why. So, Brandon, for me, it's in a large way, it's fucking. I think that you have demonstrated enough on the channel for me to say this, or not demonstrated, but kind of alluded to the fact that when you're around certain people that are reminiscent of who you were at that time. Let me give a different story or a quick story within this. I don't think any of them watch this, and it doesn't change it if they do. When the Zoom craze of 2020 happened, pandemic hit, and everybody was like, hey, you've got free time, let's do a Zoom call. No, I didn't want to talk before. I don't want to talk now. My college class did a reunion. And we invited everybody. There was like 12 of us that were in the class, maybe 15. I don't know. But my best friend, Billy, who was also in the class with me, said, hey, are you gonna come to the Zoom? And I made up an excuse. And he knew I was making up an excuse. I said, no, I've actually got another Zoom meeting at that time with family, so I can't. And I later told him, I was like, I wouldn't, no, never. And you know why? Because I've worked really fucking hard to not be the person I was then. I hate the person I was in college. That dude was a fucking douchebag. He was selfish. He didn't work very hard. He got by on the work he had done previously. And I don't care for him. Now, granted, he was going through a lot. But I empathize with him. I don't need to revisit him. And jumping into this group, I know that I, as many of us do, am very likely to just fall into being who you need me to be. Who do I need to be to make you comfortable? Fuck it. I don't need to worry about me. I'm good. I'm actually super happy with my life. So I can pretend to be this person for you. The problem is that takes a toll on me. And so I'm currently, like I said, in a spot I have history with. And so when you're around, whether it's family or friends or old roommates or old situations or a city or like, you know what I mean? There's something in the air. Like Brandon, if you went back to Texas, you know, so much of yourself would stand out like sore thumb, and so much of yourself would just go, and you can't get you drop back into it, and you're like, nah, no, I remember being like this. I remember this street. I remember the fucking feeling of being like this here. No, I've got to hold
Yeah.
myself in a certain way. I've got to walk like this. I've got to talk like this. There's things I've got to teach Ange. There's so many aspects of your life that you go back to and you go, wait, I'm not that. I can acknowledge that. But I don't have to fucking just be smothered by it. I don't have to be controlled by it.
Mm.
I can
Mhm.
control it. So
Mm.
I guess this is what, step 4 or 5, like somewhere after acknowledgement, choose your response, respond. That response, there's got to also be something that's in the kind of paraphrasing afterwards, which is just, I control this as best I
Mm.
can. I can't control all the situations that are going to come up ever, but I have to know who I am in it. And this goes back to, again, another episode of ours with regards to absolutes. Now, I've said for a long time, I do my best not to live in absolutes. And I mean that because there's a lot of very dangerous absolutes out there that cause you to act blindly, cause you to act without any sort of acknowledgement or chosen response. That said, I will refine my earlier position and say that there are more times than I expected
Mm.
that if you do not act in absolutes, you're going to find yourself in a world of fucking pain, or you're going to put somebody else through it. So sometimes maybe you don't live in absolutes, but your future self does. Blame it on him. I don't know. Like, but there's definitely something there that I've been finding more lately. And again, it may just be the world that I happen to be a part of right now. But it's necessary.
Oh man.
Come on, somebody. Come on.
Well, you came on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, come on, somebody. It was you. I was like, well, he came.
yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say. You said, come
That
on,
was good. I
somebody.
love this
Colt.
topic that you brought.
All right. Well, I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, I think we
Y'all,
touched on it and we came full circle.
it's been a really nice one. It was worth the wait.
Oh God.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 12 of The Refinery. Don't worry, it's not the season finale. Otherwise, we'd
And it's not
all be in
sponsored by
top
Trojan.
hats and tails. That's not a thing. Top coats and tails.
It's sponsored by the
top
Peaky
hats and tails.
Blinders, mate. It's by the
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders. All right.
3-piece suits, everybody.
3-piece suits, everybody in a
Love that.
wait a minute. Bloody hell there, mate. All right. And it.
Throw it on. Come
And
on.
a
Come on.
cap.
Throw it on.
And a cap. All right. Tom Shelby. Tommy boy. Peaky Blinders.
Come
mate.
on, somebody. All right. Y'all, have a great night. Thank you for watching. Check out all of the rest of The Refinery. I'll throw everything in the playlist. You know what to do. Oh.
And 5 seasons of Peaky Blinders on Netflix, mate.
I was like, Brandon, and check out Brandon. Everybody's information is linked below. All right. Talk to y'all later.
Later, guys.